But is the live one will have the whole thing on it, as opposed to the Google
Well,
one?
I'm going to say the whole thing now.
This is-
I don't understand the question.
The question is, I don't know how I found it, but if I go to the live versus just the
No,
YouTube.
it's a. If it's shut off, that means it's shut off in the
Okay.
middle for some reason.
Okay.
I don't know why. Okay. Well, I think it's working now. Yeah, it is working. Okay. All right, so we'll begin. First of all, I brought books if anyone's interested in purchasing. This is the Laws and Customs of the 3 Weeks. We have a few books available. And as I'm saying, get them now before Mashiach comes, and then you won't be able to merit from learning these halachas anymore. So other halachas you'll always be able to continue learning, but this has a time frame. So 60 shekel for a book. After the shir, whoever's interested, we can sell copies. Okay, so what we have on today's agenda is we want to go through. We pretty much did most of the 9-day halachas last week on Sunday. So we want to go through halachas that are relevant and pertinent to number one, Shabbos Chazayin, this coming Shabbos, from the aspect of Shabbos Chazayin. Likewise, from the aspect that this year, as well as last year, Shabbos falls on Tisha B'Av. So what are any additional restrictions that are unique to this year due to the falling out of the dates? And we'll go through as well the laws relevant to Tisha B'Av itself, and as would be in any year, that all the different restrictions of Tisha B'Av. So that's what we're going to be doing today. With that said, next week I do not plan on being here. I'm hopefully taking I plan on taking my private jet to Yerushalayim. Yes, I mean, we're supposed to all be getting a little cloud next to our homes, and be able to go with them to Jerusalem.
Oh, yeah.
My kids asked me if it's going to be one for the whole family or everybody's family gets one. So I said, well, I think everyone's going to get their own. If not, we'll have to cut them up. So, but that's what's brought in the Medrash. Everyone's going to have their own little cloud, be able to go to, that's how you're going to be able to space travel. So you're going to be able to travel to different places. You don't need to wait online in Ben Gurion, take a plane, wait for the monit to take you to the airport.
Pay $1,500.
That's another thing. Everyone will have their personal cloud. So with that said, we're not going to, either way, we're not having class Sunday, and probably we're not having class until Elul. So this is our last class for the Bein Hazmanim period. And Emeret Shem Elul, we will begin. Okay, so let's begin with Shabbos Chazayin. The name Shabbos Chazayin comes from which is this coming Shabbos, comes from the Haftarah that we're going to be reading in Shul this coming Shabbos, which is Chazayin Yeshayahu. In this Haftarah, it discusses the third vision, the third prophecy of the 3 sets of prophecies that we began reading 2 weeks ago in the Haftarahs, and the prophecies of the calamities that will occur if the Jewish people don't, in simple terms, shape up or ship out. That's basically what the 3 Haftarahs were. They were warnings to Klal Yisrael, and this is the third and last one. So that sounds like kind of melancholy, kind of sad and negative to call this Shabbos Chazayin. It's unlike Shabbos Nachmu, which is something more of positivity. However, the Reb Hillel of Paritch was a student of the Tzemach Tzedek. He was known as a great tzaddik. He writes in the name of Reb Levi Yitzchak of Berditchev. Now you can know whenever Reb Levi Yitzchak's name is being mentioned, he's going to twist the perspective to something a little more light, something a little more sweet. And it's exactly what he does here regarding Shabbos Chazayin. So he said in his name that this coming Shabbos, God shows the soul of every single Jew a vision of the third temple. So it's not something that hallucinatory, that something you hallucinate and you begin seeing. That's something that's shown to the neshama, the soul. Now, how does this practically express itself? So it's meant to express itself in the way that a Jew begins to naturally feel more of a yearning for the redemption and more of a yearning for the third temple this coming Shabbos. The Rebbe says in order to make this practical, and this is the whole reason why it was revealed, Our job and mission this coming Shabbos is to take time to contemplate this idea and to think about this idea and imagine it and begin really building a vision of anticipation for the redemption. And I want to speak about this a little bit. As we've been so long in exile in Gullus, and as we're all used to the status quo from the time we're born till now in whatever system we're living in, it's very difficult to become used to or anticipate something that doesn't exist to you. And that's why whenever every matter of revolution that happened in any country always began with some individual who was viewed by the majority as a lunatic. What is this guy thinking? He's crazy, and then eventually began gaining steam until it became voted as the mainstream philosophy, whether this be with the French Revolution or the Russian Revolution or the revolution of democracy, whatever, and even the state of Israel, right? It all began with a book. When you contemplate this, it's very interesting, even though we don't hold of Zionism per se as it was written by Theodor Herzl, but the idea can be used and transcribed to other things as well. That in his time in the 1880s, he wrote a book of a Jewish state, and he wrote all the details of the Jewish state. That's what it was called, the Jewish state. And he wrote all the details, how it would look like, and he created a vision that everyone thought he was hallucinating. The man, Pashat Nebuch, he went crazy, he's nuts. And that began picking up steam, and people began believing in it. But the point is that if you don't dream, how are those dreams going to come true? So it's the same thing applies regarding the redemption. A Jew, part of the requirement of anticipating Mashiach's coming is to try to turn it as much as a reality as you can to yourself. And the way of doing that is by having a picture of the redemption, by having ideas of the redemption. What will it look like? How will things be like? And that's what we learn about. So we are encouraged to study Gula Mashiach, matters that how things will be in the future. And when a person begins thinking about it and imagining it and contemplating it, it becomes a lot more of a reality to the person for it to be able to come. And this is really the job of a Jew throughout the year, but mainly this coming Shabbos Chazayin, that a person is to engage in imagining the future redemption, the third temple, and create an anticipation for it, a desire for it, and a yearning for it, to the point that it becomes realistic for him. So this is for this coming Shabbos. We're going to now discuss various halachas that relate to Erev Shabbos, this coming Erev Shabbos, and Shabbos itself. So regarding bathing this Erev Shabbos, as we know, during the 9 days, Ashkenazim are accustomed to abstain from baths and showers. We discussed this last week. Is there any change of law on Erev Shabbos? So we touched upon this last week already. For the previous Erev Shabbos, we said this past Erev Shabbos, there were no restrictions. You were allowed to take L'Kavod Shabbos as a person usually does. What about this coming Shabbos? What do you say? We're on page 154. This Erev Shabbos, what do you say? Is it okay? Can you take your nice half-hour Erev Shabbos shower?
Half hour?
However long it usually is.
Just a little less.
So the answer is like this, that there is no, right, very good. There is actually no extra allowance L'Kavod Shabbos this week to take a shower unless you are Sephardi or you manage to convert within the week. Otherwise, you still have to abide by the restriction for Ashkenazim. You cannot take a shower, even of cold water, even in Erev Shabbos, unless it's for cleanliness purposes. So with the same heter you're using to take a shower today, that's the same heter you'll use to take a shower Erev Shabbos. There's no extra or added additional leniency. So thereby, the same limitations we follow, that we only shower during the week, during the 9 days, for the sake of cleanliness, and once we're clean, we go out. The same thing applies this Erev Shabbos. It used to be, when I once publicized this halacha a number of years ago, I got fanfare from all over the world. And for some reason, psychologically, people always send fanfare when they're saying, oh, we really like what you wrote. It's more like when we don't like what you wrote. That's when suddenly everyone speaks up. It's interesting. It's an interesting human psychology that people do that, you know. To one person I wrote, and what about all the other, 350 halachas of the past year? I never heard from you. He says, oh, those are all great. So I'm like, so why didn't I hear from you? In any event, so he claimed vehemently, how can you say there's restrictions? It's Erev Shabbos, the covered Shabbos, Chassidim, and he brought sources, and the truth is I also brought his sources. There are sources that say that Erev Shabbos Chazayin, the custom of Chassidim always was, the covered Shabbos to take a shower and to do, like you normally would. So what I explained to him was very simple, and this is in truth the answer why there's a little bit of misconception here. We have to understand, back in the day, before global warming, I don't know, you can blame it on whatever you want. People did not bath or shower during the 9 days, period. Nothing. Came Erev Shabbos, most people didn't bath or shower. And some Chassidim became accustomed to be lenient to do so the covered Shabbos. Now, in truth, what's the basis of their allowance? It says in Shulchan Aruch, you're not allowed to. The basis is for cleanliness purposes. They could have used that reason to take a bath and shower the whole week, but they decided they were stringent and they didn't. Till today, you'll find old school people, otherwise known as Yishuv Hayashan, Yerushalmiim and others, who they follow all the strict laws to the T during the 9 days. They don't shower, they don't change clothing. Literally, it's to the T. They follow everything as it was. The new generation, we're more pampered, we're more mifunak. So we're not used to these things. But the point is that that's how it was back then. So came Erev Shabbos, they decided to not abide by the stringency and to clean themselves for cleanliness purposes. But to turn that now today, that we who are showering every day for cleanliness purposes will now go ahead and do whatever we want Erev Shabbos, that was never the intent of that custom. The intent of the custom was that someone who abstained from showering during the week, then Erev Shabbos, at least they would shower. But this week, which we do every day anyways, or whenever we need, then there's no extra leniency. It's for cleanliness purposes. That's when it is allowed. Wearing Shabbos clothing. So the Ashkenazi custom is during the 9 days not to wear Shabbos clothing, not only during the week, but not even on Shabbos. That was the original Ashkenazi custom, and I say original because things have changed. So first, let's just say Sephardim never took this custom upon themselves. So they always would go with Shabbos clothing on Shabbos. Number two, Chassidim, there's various things that Chassidim began adapting when the Chassidic movement started, which is, of course, what caused the Machlekes. The whole cause of Machlekes was because Chassidim began becoming like Sephardim. That's really what it was. We began davening like Sephardim. We began doing many minhagim that Sephardim did, and they were very upset with me changing Ashkenazi custom for. One of those things is that the fact we would wear Shabbos clothing on Shabbos Chazayin. Back in the day in Lita, in Europe, in Russia, no one wore Shabbos clothing on Shabbos of the 9 days. Only Sephardim did. Then the Chassidim started doing it. And then the Chassidim got a big backing. They had the Misnagdim had to take this complaint off the list. Why? Because the Vilna Gaon said they're right. You're supposed to wear Shabbos clothing on Shabbos. So now they were stuck. So they had to take that off the list, and that's probably why they made up a whole bunch of other things that never happened that we did, because the list was just getting shorter. Because the Vilna Gaon actually agreed with a lot of them in Hagam of the Chassidim, very interestingly. Him and the Alter Rebbe were on the same boat in a lot of different issues, and but nonetheless, this began to become less and less. Ashkenaz began keeping the original custom, till the point today that in Eretz Yisrael, I don't think, and don't quote me on this because there may be small pockets which still do follow, but for the most part, most communities today of Ashkenaz wear Shabbos clothing this coming Shabbos. In Chutz La'aretz, however, many don't. In a lot of places in Chutz La'aretz, Ashkenazi communities, the men and women wear Shabbos weekday clothing for this coming Shabbos because it's during the 9 days.
Litvish Ashkenaz?
Litvish, yes. No Chassidim do it and no Sephardim do it. We all wear Shabbos clothing. It's based on the Arizal. The Arizal's Yahrzeit is now this week. The Arizal is the one who taught this, and we adapted the Arizal's teachings, and therefore we wear Shabbos. It's forbidden to show mourning on Shabbos, to wear Shabbos clothing. But just be aware that there were communities, that's how it was in Ashkenaz. Until this very day, they do not wear Shabbos clothing.
They would wear like jeans and a t-shirt to show?
I don't know if they wore jeans during the week either.
Oh, yeah. So they still wear a suit. Not that different from Shabbos.
Yeah, whatever they wore during the week, they would wear on Shabbos itself. That's why the Sephardi Rabbanim always joke about, is it mutter for a Sephardi to enter an Ashkenazi shul during the 9 days? The smell and all these different things that they're noihig, that they're not noihig, like they're more lenient to. Okay. Okay, since the remaining laws are relevant to the special occurrence of this year, we're gonna skip now already to laws applicable to Shabbos Chazayin that falls on Tisha B'Av. In the book, this is in chapter 8, Shabbos Tisha B'Av. So we're gonna first begin, before we go into Shabbos itself, let's first just clarify regarding the fast, okay? This year that Tisha B'Av is pushed off to Sunday, who has to fast? So you have all of these WhatsApp pattern running around. Since it's pushed off, it's nitcha, so you have this leniency and that leniency. So let's get the facts straight. Who needs to fast this coming Sunday and who does not? So the answer is very simple. Everybody needs to fast except those who don't. Who doesn't? Who doesn't need to fast? So there's only one tiny difference between this year and a regular year. Now, for those that fall into that tiny difference, that's the biggest difference in the world, okay, as we're going to mention. But there isn't that much of a stretch of a leniency. So let's begin. Every single Jew, male and female, is required to fast on all the rabbinical fasts, including Shabbos, including Tisha B'Av. There's no difference. This year, for some reason, I began getting a lot of emails from people asking me that they heard that women don't have to fast the rabbinical fasts. And I don't know how this happens. A few different people, no contact with each other. It seems like somewhere in the atmosphere, there's some Dion and Shemaim going on in this. So I said, okay, I know, of course, it's not true. We've spoken about this many times. But since they quoted different names of Rabbanim, so I had to verify with them. And, of course, they verified the truth. Women do have to fast, and the custom is for them to fast all the rabbinical fasts. And, of course, including Tisha B'Av, that's no exception. So what leniencies do apply? So on every Tisha B'Av, whether it's nitche like this year or whether it's like in previous years, that it's on the actual weekday, that it falls on, sick people are exempt from fasting. Okay, someone who is sick is exempt. However, someone who's not sick, even if they are pregnant or nursing, then although by the regular rabbinical fast they are exempt, a pregnant and nursing woman is exempt from rabbinical fast, that's the halacha. Tisha B'Av they are not exempt from. So Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur are the two fasts that even pregnant and nursing women must fast on. So there's no extra exemption for them. And this applies even Tainus Nitcha. Even on a Tainus Nitcha, there's no extra leniency that's given to a pregnant nursing woman. The leniency that is given is what we're going to discuss soon regarding a sick person, which may help a pregnant nursing woman, as we'll see. But it's not per se due to them being pregnant or nursing. There's no extra leniency due to that in and of itself. Okay, so with that said, let's go back to the sick person. So how do you define sick? You have some people, they call in sick to work because they had the sniffles, or to school because, you know, their toe hurts. You know, well, what is sick? What does sick mean? So in halacha, we have a very clear definition of illness, of sickness. Sickness is defined as a person who is ill in his entire body. It's not someone who has strange ideas, you know, you're sick in the head. It's not sick. Sick is someone who is bedridden. Now, bedridden isn't someone who's too lazy to get out of bed. He has a sleeping problem. It's somebody who feels mamish weak. He's ill. He's pashut ill. Even a person who has a broken limb and can't get out of bed because of that is not considered sick, because he's not getting out of bed because of a different problem. Toddlers, babies, infants also can't get out of bed. They're not sick. Not getting out of bed because of an external issue, a mobile issue, is not sickness. Sickness means the body is physically weak, too weak to get out of bed. So this can be regarding someone who's very old and fragile, or it could be someone who has a fever, someone who has a very strong cold, someone who has a sinus infection, or anything of the like that makes the entire body weak. Now, even if a person forces, this doesn't mean you have to physically stay in bed. If a person forces himself because they need to get out of bed and walk around, if their entire body feels weak, not due to lack of eating, of course, because anyone who doesn't eat a whole day is going to feel weak. That's not the definition of sick. That's just called you're fasting. But anyone who's feeling weakness in his body due to illness, then even if he's forcing himself to walk around, he's under the exemption of sick. So in other words, such a person does not have to fast. So practically, anyone who has a fever, okay, does not have to fast on any Tisha B'Av. Anyone who has a very strong infection, sinus infection, or a very bad cold that makes his entire body feel run down, feel weak, he's exempt from fasting on any Tisha B'Av, including this year. No difference. A person who has a pain, an acute pain that's very powerful, very strong, then it can be viewed as sickness in the whole body. Why? Usually an acute pain is just painful in the area, but eventually when pain gets super bad, it knocks you out. It just eats up your whole body, and you're definitely considered a sick person. So in any of those cases, a person would be considered sick, and they do not have to fast. However, if it's an acute pain that is not consuming the whole body, it just hurts. A person has a centralized headache. It's not such a bad headache, but it's a headache. It's bothering me. Or a person's foot is hurting him. All those things are not exemptions for fasting. So what then happens this year in Tisha B'Av Nidche, that we have an extra exemption. What's that little difference? So the difference is regarding that we're going to downgrade the definition of illness. Until now we said illness means your entire body feels weak. Now we're going to say illness means you feel slightly sick, even a slight illness. A slight nichush exempts a person. So what this practically means is that for a pregnant woman and nursing mother, the added exemption they have is that if they, due to the fast, they have to start fasting if they're able to. If they don't have, if a pregnant woman does not have any danger involved to the fetus by fasting, if she does, then even Yom Kippur she wouldn't fast. But assuming it's a normal case, she's able to fast, then she is to fast until she begins feeling slightly ill. If she begins feeling slightly ill, then she just entered the exemption, and she's no longer required to fast in such a case. That is the added exemption for this year. So the bottom line is that unlike a lot of misconceptions, there's no extra leniency for pregnant nursing women this year. They have to continue fasting like they would in any Tisha B'Av, with exception to if they begin feeling weak in their entire body or even slightly sick, then they are allowed to break their fast. This is, of course, in addition to the general law that a pregnant woman is even allowed to break her fast in Yom Kippur if she begins feeling contractions, early labor, and things of the like. Then, of course, she's allowed to break her fast. It's not a problem. She has to break her fast for health purposes. A woman after birth. A woman after birth, who's within 30 days after birth, is not to fast. She's to be told not to fast. In other words, that even though some want to be machmer and fast, today practically they're to be instructed not to fast and not to be machmer. That's if they give birth within 30 days of Tisha B'Av. That applies in any Tisha B'Av, and especially this year that it's a Tisha B'Av Nidche, they're definitely not to be stringent upon themselves and fast within 30 days.
Now I have a question.
Yeah.
It happened to me twice for the last big fast. I got sick in the middle. Doing from 12 o'clock in the day, I start vomiting and everything, so I'm not allowed to drink.
So right. So vomiting is usually from either stomach illness, nausea, or virus. I don't know. What is it from? What is the vomiting coming from? So just to vomit, just the act of vomiting is not defined as an illness. It's disgusting. I agree with you, but it's not a reason to break the fast. That once occurred to me on Yom Kippur, and just imagine Yom Kippur, you can't wash your mouth, you can't do anything. It's at least on a regular fast in such a case, you can wash your mouth out, not Tisha B'Av, but on a regular fast, you wash your mouth out, you can do other things. On Tisha B'Av, it's a little more stringent because we have the bathing prohibitions. You're not allowed to, but that's not, that itself is not enough of a reason. But if that comes with, let's say a person felt, I don't know, a person ate too much chicken this Shabbos. It was, no, I'm giving an example. I'll give an example. So I'm explaining the difference of what the cause of the vomit was. If a person ate too much for Sudas Hamafsekis, okay, and he's feeling hard, when you eat too much, if he's feeling horrible, and he throws up and now he feels better. So because of that, he's not going to fast anymore. Mm-hmm. He feels better now that he threw up. So if that's that type of vomiting would not exempt the person, but a type of vomiting is as a result of a sickness, of an illness, or if it can lead to dehydration. Okay, and then of course, in such a case, preventive illness is also illness. So if a person knows that they're dehydrated and if they don't drink, then right now I'm fine, but I don't know what's going to be after the fast is over. I don't know where I'm going to be. Then it's a big problem. Of course, they have to break their fast. Preventive illness is also important. So it all depends on the situation. There's a rule in Hilchah in the laws of Yom Kippur. It says like this: Leiv yodea maras nafshi. An ill person knows better than anyone else what he needs. And therefore, it says that if an ill person says in Yom Kippur, I feel I need to eat, and the doctor says, what are you talking about? You don't need to eat. We listen to the ill person, not to the doctor, because the doctor is not in the ill person's shoes. So if the ill person, who's a God-fearing Jew, says he needs to eat on Yom Kippur, he needs to eat on Yom Kippur. It's not a game. So it's the same thing. If you feel that this can lead to dehydration, or etc., then definitely you can drink in such a case.
What happens if someone's diabetic?
Diabetics shouldn't be fasting, but you should speak to your doctor. But the general rule is that diabetics are not allowed to fast. It's a big problem. It's a kanas nefashos. Even on Yom Kippur, diabetics usually take shiurim. But speak to your doctor. They take shiurim. They take every 9 minutes. They take a little bit of water. But speak to you have to speak. The diabetic has to speak to their doctor. Every case is different. Every file is different to know exactly where they're holding. You have pre-diabetics, you have people with two different types of diabetes. You have to find out exactly from the doctor what is a problem, what is not. But in general, person is a diabetic, fasting is a big no-no, even on Yom Kippur. Okay, let's get on now that we talked so much about fasting, we're probably all hungry, so let's get to the Shabbos. Shabbos out of Tisha B'Av this year. Are there any menu changes this year on Shabbos? So the good news is that no, all the menu, the regular Shabbos menu that we have on a regular Shabbos continues this Shabbos as well. We do not apply any extra restrictions, meaning that all the laws of Sudas HaMafsekes, that you can't eat fish, and you sit on the floor, you have to dip your egg in ashes, and all of those related laws are obsolete this year. They are not applicable this year, and hopefully will never be again. But and this is, again, 2 years in a row, so we're beginning already to lose memory of what we used to do. We will discuss some other non-related to menu restrictions for the Sudas HaMafsekes Shalosh Shudas when we get to it soon. But otherwise, there is no restriction whatsoever. Regarding leather shoes, bathing, and anointing, these restrictions do not apply this Shabbos, because it is Tisha B'Av is pushed off, so we likewise push off these restrictions. In other words, even though technically it is Tisha B'Av, and I understand that we are going to permit eating food because we don't fast on Shabbos, maybe the other, there's 5 restrictions total on Tisha B'Av, maybe the other 4 restrictions we should apply. So the answer is that we don't apply them. That's the final halacha, even though there's some who argue. Bottom line is that we do not apply them, so you are allowed to wear leather shoes like you usually do. You are allowed to bathe like you would usually do on a regular Shabbos, so you can wash your hands, you can wash your face. Any bathing that's permitted on Shabbos is permitted to be done on Tisha B'Av itself, on Tisha B'Av that falls on Shabbos in such a case. With that mentioned, so it's as far, based on this, we can understand the following as well. If a person is accustomed to take a cold shower on Shabbos because they feel disgusting after walking a half hour in the blazing sun from their shul to their home, then they may do so as well this Shabbos. There is no issur to doing so for cleanliness purposes. There's no extra Tisha B'Av restriction added to that. The one restriction that does apply this Shabbos is for Ashkenazim, and that is marital intimacy. It is prohibited for Ashkenazim to engage in marital intimacy this Shabbos, Friday night, and that continues likewise, of course, for all Jewry on Saturday night because it is Tisha B'Av Saturday night. This is with exception to, as I said before, Sfardim. That's why the days are numbered for conversion. They're still accepting, but the days are running out.
But then you can't change back.
That's correct. It's a one-way ticket. A one-way ticket. No round trips.
Can't go party, can't go back. Oh, scary.
The one exception to this is the night of Tevilah. The night of Tevilah is permitted. Marital intimacy is permitted on Friday night this year, even for Ashkenazim, but in general, it's forbidden for Ashkenazim. Regarding harchakos are the normal distances that a couple keeps during times of impurity. The question is, do they have to be kept this Shabbos? And once we're on the topic, we'll also mention they have to be kept on Tisha B'Av if the wife is pure. And the answer is as follows. While some are machmir, are stringent to keep all the laws of harchakos during this Shabbos and more so Sunday, Saturday night, Sunday, which is Tisha B'Av, which is forbidden from letter of the law to engage in intimacy. Nonetheless, from the letter of law, this is not required, which means that a person is allowed to pass something to their wife, or the wife can pass something to the husband. From the letter of the law, you don't have to keep the laws of Archakis that are normally kept. However, what is recorded is that there is a restriction against engaging in affectionate touch and sleeping in the same bed. So that's for 2 nights in a row for Ashkenazim. That's Friday night and Saturday night. Okay. For Sephardim, it's only Saturday night. That many Sephardim are accustomed to keep full Archakas, as ruling the Ben Ish Chai. They keep all the regular Archakas that would be kept during impurity times. They keep this coming Tisha B'Av. But for us, we don't have to keep it if we don't want to. But nonetheless, not sleeping in the same bed and not to engage in affectionate touch is required for us. 2 days, 24 hours, 48 hours. Learning Torah. Is it permitted to learn Torah this Shabbos? So we have 3 opinions. First opinion says no Torah learning the entire Shabbos. It's Tisha B'Av. Now, it doesn't mean you can't learn Torah. It just means you have to limit your subjects to the subjects permitted on Tisha B'Av itself, which are kind of morbid, sad, but halavai that we should actually be saddened by what we read, often it's kind of difficult to arouse the feelings and really have it touch us. But nonetheless, it's permitted to be learned. So anything's permitted on Tisha B'Av to be learned is definitely permitted on Shabbos to be learned. And some say that's the only thing you're allowed to learn this Shabbos. Others say, no, how can you say such a thing? It's Shabbos. There are no restrictions at all. So we take the middle ground. We will like the third opinion, which is the following. Until midday, Shabbos morning, it's permitted to learn all sections of Torah. Starting from midday from Chatzais, only those things that are learned on Tisha B'Av are permitted to be learned this Shabbos. So that means your Chitas, your Tehillim, everything you normally do, you should try to finish before Chatzais, before midday.
What exact time is that just around now?
I think it's 12:40. Let's see. So around 12:40 something. Right now, Chatzais is at 12:43. So it'll be around that time. It doesn't switch. It doesn't change that much over the next few days.
The Shabbos Farbringen can't be really. It has to be limited.
It should.
The
The eating doesn't have to be limited. There's no. You can eat whatever you want.
But the learning after, like when they Farbring after Shul.
All to those things that are permitted on Tisha B'Av. You're allowed to talk on Tisha B'Av about matters that relate to character and Chassidus and Kabbalah. So if that is the Torah subject being spoken of, it's permitted. The Rebbe once on Shabbos Tisha B'Av had a Farbringen, and he said that due to this whole debate, since there's a way out of it by speaking of matters that are permitted, so that's what I'm going to do. And he spoke of, matters of Chassidus, matters that are permitted to be studied on Tisha B'Av itself.
So it's going to be kind of difficult because Shabbat is my Shabbos Kala.
Right. So you'll have to. So again, you can speak of all things permitted on Tisha B'Av, and you can speak of all things related to Chassidus and character and those things. So you can. You can't give a drasha of Hilchos Nesuin. You can't start speaking about the laws of marriage and all those things. That's but things that are relate to, Chassidic teachings and Agadatos is permitted to be learned.
Can you sing or not?
Yes, there's no restriction to sing Zmiris on Shabbos. The general rule is like this: anything that you would normally do on Shabbos, you're actually not allowed to abstain from, because that's showing public mourning. You're not allowed to show public mourning on Shabbos. Mm-hmm. So anything that you would normally do, you do. So obviously, yes, you're allowed to sing Zmiris. All that is 100% allowed. How regarding Torah learning, does everyone learn Torah of the subjects that are forbidden on Tisha B'Av every Shabbos is going to be so noticeable? It's not considered it's not considered a public matter. That's why also an avol doing Shiva is not allowed to learn Torah on Shabbos. Why it's considered a davar shebetzin is considered a matter of privacy. Mm-hmm. It's not considered public avelus when you're not engaged in Torah learning. Okay, there are many people who enjoy taking pleasure walks on Shabbos, walking down, the Chobi Yerushalayim here, or whatever it is, seeing the sights. This Shabbos, it is forbidden to be done. This Shabbos, because Tisha B'Av falls on Shabbos, it is forbidden for one to take pleasure walks. This starts from Friday night throughout the whole Shabbos. This is for both Sfaradim and Ashkenazim. We don't take any pleasure walks this Shabbos. Do we say Pirkei Avos this Shabbos? We're officially holding by chapter 3, this coming Shabbos. So the Ramah says no. He says you can't say it, it's Torah learning. And after midday, you can't learn Torah anymore. But others argue and say, hey, Pirkei Avos is not really Torah learning, it's more like davening. When was the last time you paid attention to what you read in Pirkei Avos? You read it, you're davening it. So if it's like davening, so what's the problem? So this is the argument. Bottom line is that we don't say it. Okay? If you want to say it, you should say it before Chatzos. No problem. Before midday, at 12:35, open up your siddur, say Paragimel Pirkei Avos. Next week you'll say it again, but you want to get it in this week as well. You'll say it this week before midday. You circumvent the issue. However, to say it after midday is a problem based on what we mentioned. Mincha has to be davened early, and therefore all the shuls, hopefully, will be publicizing early minyanim for Mincha this Shabbos. There will be no late minyanim because we need to get in the final meal, Shalosh Shudas. So that means that even those families who don't normally hold an official Shalosh Shudas at home will be doing so this Shabbos. Everybody's going to be holding Shalosh Shudas because that is the final meal. That's a Sudas HaMafsekes in essence. So let's say Mincha is at 5:30ish, so 6 o'clock you start your Sudas HaMafsekes. It's called Sudas HaMafsekes simply because it's the final meal before the fast. That's just the terminology they use. Now, what are there any restrictions? So we said already before that there are no menu restrictions. Since it's Shabbos, you can even eat meat and drink wine during the Sudas HaMafsekes of Tisha B'Av. It's very interesting. In a normal year, it's forbidden to even eat fish during Sudas HaMafsekes. And the minhag is that there's all these restrictions born in the Talmud, and the custom is that we almost don't eat anything. We just eat stale bread and cooked eggs in ash and eggs. That is what we eat on Tisha B'Av.
And lentil soup.
Erev
Don't
Tisha
the people eat lentil soup?
We don't. You're not allowed to have two cooked foods. So lentils would be one cooked thing, and then it depends what you put in it. It could be considered two. The minhag is that we only eat on a regular of Tisha B'Av, Sudas HaMafsekes, just bread and an egg and ash. Now, so this Shabbos, obviously because it's Shabbos, we don't have any of those restrictions. However, even in a regular year, the custom of Ashkenaz always was to have before that meal, which probably will not help us make it through the fast, having some burnt bread and a rotten egg. No, it's eggs with ash.
It's not rotten, though.
Okay, not rotten. Okay. So we would have a prior meal to the Sudas HaMafsekes, which was really the Sudas HaMafsekes. That's where really we ate most of the food. And then afterwards you would make a break and then have Sudas HaMafsekes. This is how it usually works in a regular Erev Tisha B'Av. Now, the Magen Avraham writes the reason for that is because it's not just done for the sake of us actually having fuel to get us through the fast. That's a technical reason. But it's done actually as a memorial to the fact that in the times of Bayis Sheni, what did they used to do on Tisha B'Av? They used to hold feasts. They used to celebrate it. Tisha B'Av used to be a day of celebration for 420 years in the Second Temple era. They made a big Seudah. There was no mourning. What are you mourning for? The temple's right here in front of you. What are you mourning? The Second Temple was built, so it was a day of Sasim V'Simcha. So says the Magen Avraham that since this used to be a day of Sasim V'Simcha for so many hundreds of years, so therefore us too, we want to commemorate that. We can't do it on Tisha B'Av itself because we have to fast. So before Tisha B'Av, we have this feasting in commemoration of that feast that we used to have and that we will have once again. That's what he writes. So it's a commemoration of the past and a proclamation for the future. So this year, like last year, that it falls on Shabbos, even the Sudas HaMafsekes can be, as the Gemara says, like a Seudah of Shlomo HaMelech in his time. You can have a smorgasbord, you can have every dish in the world and serve it this week, the Shabbos for the Sudas HaMafsekes. And that can be in commemoration of the original Tisha B'Av in the times of the Second Temple, as well as the future Tisha B'Av that we will experience in the future. Now, let's discuss some restrictions. Can you have guests for this meal, for this Sudas HaMafseka Shalosh meal?
Mhm.
So guests that are going to starve and have nowhere else to eat, 100%, you can have them. However, guests for the sake of social reasons, just to be able to talk and have fun and enjoy the meal, we can't have this Shabbos, unless it's something you do set every single Shabbos. If you have a set Shalosh Shudas every Shabbos with all your neighbors, all the neighbors get together, or in shul for men, the men get together, they do a set Shalosh Shudas every week. So if they don't do it this week, it's going to be public avelos, public mourning. So therefore, they continue as usual. But otherwise, if it's something that's not commonly done, it's forbidden to be done this Shabbos. So we eat alone, just with our families, not with anyone extra. Although, as I mentioned, if someone doesn't have a place to eat, you don't have to kick out your guests that stayed for you for Shabbos. So you can't be here anymore for Shabbos. We're not going to eat before Tisha B'Av. So obviously, that's not the case that it was referring to. If there are 3 men there, you can even make a zimun. It's not a problem. And a woman, of course, answer to a zimun. That's the halacha. Whenever there's a zimun of 3 men, women are to participate in the zimun. That applies likewise by the Sudas HaMafseka this week, this Shabbos. When do you have to stop eating and drinking by? So the answer is sunset. Sunset is it's probably going to be at, 30? Probably 7:30 it's going to be, all right? Now it's 7:34 Shkia, so it's around 7:30ish. You have to look at your calendar. It could be a little earlier, maybe 7:28. We're getting earlier and earlier now. So as soon as it reaches close to Shkia, that's when you have to cease all eating and drinking. As even though you're not allowed to eat, even though you're not allowed to fast on Shabbos, you're also not allowed to eat on Tisha B'Av. So we'll do a compromise and we'll eat until that time. And starting from that time, we just abstain from eating due to the suffix. Because after Shkia, it's suffix if it's night, suffix if it's day. So therefore, we abstain from eating already starting from then. Do you have to bench beforehand? You have to already say Birchas Hamazon before sunset. Answer is you don't have to. So if you want to sing the Gunim or do whatever you want to do until Ma'ariv arrives, it's not a problem, and you can then say Birchas Hamazon. There's no obligation to Birchas Hamazon before Shkia in such a case. We don't say Nachem in Birchas Hamazon even if you end up benching on Tisha B'Av itself. Let's say you continued your singing and discussions until after nightfall, so now officially Tisha B'Av is over. Officially Shabbos is over. Tisha B'Av has begun. Tantavav has begun. Tisha B'Av has begun. Even in such a case, we don't say the extra paragraph of Nachem. However, anyone who's going to be breaking their fast on Tisha B'Av, based on the allowances that we said, will be eating bread on Tisha B'Av, has to say Nachem in benching when they bench. Nachem is a paragraph that's not written in the bencher. It's written by mincha of a regular weekday mincha. If you look over there, it says before Bnei Yerushalayim, the end of the bracha of Bnei Yerushalayim. On the bottom, it says the prayer of Nachem. So someone who's benching on Tisha B'Av needs to add that in the prayer. This applies with children. Parents have to make sure that the children know how to bench on Tisha B'Av, that they say Nachem in benching. They have these pills called Tzom Kal pills. I've never tried them, but those who have say they work, supposedly. And Kishmai Kainhu, their purpose and intent is to help ease the fast, to help make the fast go by fast. So you don't feel the hunger, you don't feel hungry, you don't feel thirsty. So the fast is easy. Can you take it on Shabbos? Usually, a fast day is a weekday, so go ahead and take it. Sudas HaMafseka. But now that it's Shabbos, you're not allowed to prepare on Shabbos for after Shabbos, as well as you're not allowed to take medicine on Shabbos. So perhaps it's not allowed. Does anyone take them? Anyone try them?
Never heard of it.
Supposedly they work, and it's better to take them than need to enter into a discussion of, am I considered slightly ill? Am I considered fully ill? Can I break my fast? It's better to take it and not need to break the fast and enter into shilas than not to take it at all. But what it basically does is that it helps to conserve the liquids in the body, and it basically tricks the body to think that it just ate a meal. So
I need one of those every day.
So the person doesn't feel the pain of the fast. In general, people that are strong and healthy shouldn't be taking these things because the whole purpose of a fast is to feel a little bit of pain. So what do you know? It's like trying to get a heter to do IV in a fast day and able to eat and drink and have a whole meal through IV.
What's it called?
Khalid. So there's a whole bunch of them. There's a lot of them out there. Go the pharmacies. No, the pharmacies sell them, and right here the health food stores sell them. They sell these. Khalid Zone.
College.
Yeah. So the answer is like this: someone who needs to take this, they're allowed to take it on Shabbos, and the reason is for a few reasons. Number one, it's not considered a medicine because they're not sick. You can't consider something as a medicine if you're not sick when you're taking it. When a healthy person takes a medicine, that's either called drug abuse or that's called illness prevention. And illness prevention was never prohibited on Shabbos. A person on Shabbos is allowed to take something to prevent something from happening. So, for example, a person who needs blood thinners is allowed to take aspirin every day, including Shabbos, because he doesn't have a current illness. He's taking it for the sake that, he doesn't enter the statistics of cardiovascular disease when he enters 50 years old and above.
What about vitamins?
Same thing. A vitamin, if you're not sick at the moment, you're healthy. You don't have a cold, you don't have a runny nose, you're 100% healthy. You take vitamins every day as preventive medicine. Since you're not currently ill, the sages never restricted you from taking medicine because in essence it's not medicine yet. You're not sick. The only reason why medicine taking is forbidden on Shabbos for sick people is because we're afraid that since they're ill, that they're going to go ahead and crush the herbs and create the medicine on Shabbos. But a healthy person, there's nothing wrong with you. There's no reason why you will, out of panic, forget that it's Shabbos. What are you panicking about? You're not sick. There's nothing to panic about. However, someone who is bedridden, then he's also allowed to take medicines. There's only in a little pocket of people that can't take medicine on Shabbos where you're not feeling well, but not to the point that you're bedridden. So, runny nose, those things, then you can't take vitamin C on Shabbos. But otherwise, a person will be allowed. So to hear, the easy fast the pill is not taken for an illness. It's taken for me to be able to have an easy fast. It's not considered an illness, so therefore it's permitted. Now, what about the aspect of preparation? So here too, since the person begins benefiting from this pill on Shabbos itself, whatever benefit it gives the body, it already begins giving on Shabbos itself when you take it, especially if you take it in the early morning. And therefore, it's very similar to the fact you're going to be eating more food this Shabbos for the sake of being able to have more strength on Tisha B'Av. So no one's going to tell you, you normally eat 6 potatoes in your chulent on a regular Shabbos. Now you're eating 7. That 7th is the preparation for after Shabbos. No, it's mutter because you're benefiting from it on Shabbos itself. And that's why, likewise with the easy fast pill, we are able to permit. The bathing and anointing restrictions begin starting from Shkia. So if you need to wash your hands, you want to wash your face, whatever you want to do of bathing related, must take place before sunset. Once it's sunset, all the restrictions apply. Now, when do we switch clothing, shoes, Shabbos clothing? This week, this Shabbos, for Tisha B'Av. So the problem is that you're not allowed to prepare for Shabbos till Shabbos is over. So you cannot take off your leather shoes until Tzeisek Yechavim, not Shkia, but Tzeisek Yechavim. Only then do we take off our leather shoes. Now, if you don't feel comfortable in your leather shoes, you don't have to stay in them and suffocate the whole Shabbos. You can take them off. I'm saying you can't take them off due to the morning. The whole reason is due to morning, then you have to wait till after Shabbos is over. So the way it works is that once it says Sekechavim, you say Baruch Hamavdu ben Kodesh L'chel, and you take off your leather shoes. Regarding clothing, Shabbos clothing. So those of you who will be going to shul for Meir and Kinnos, there's the Chabad custom practically is to continue wearing Shabbos clothing. We don't switch to weekday clothing until after Meir.
And until after Kinnos, or you go home and come back?
No, till after Meir, till you leave shul, till shul is over, till after Kinnos. The widespread custom of the world is for this reason to make a break between Mincha and Ma'ariv, and people go home for the sake of saying Baruch HaMavdil and switching to the weekday clothing. So they come to shul and kinnis wearing weekday clothing. That's what the majority of the world does. However, this used to not be the custom. That's what the majority of the world does today. In the past, that was not the custom. And this is certainly not the Chabad custom or original Chabad custom. And rather that we would continue wearing our Shabbos clothing into Motzei Shabbos. In other words, those who held that you can wear Shabbos clothing on Shabbos also held, remember we discussed earlier, the Litvish jury used to wear they didn't wear Shabbos clothing on Shabbos, but those who did would always continue wearing it into Motzei Shabbos, just like doing a regular week. And the reason for that is because the Isser of wearing Shabbos clothing during the weekday is only when you put it on at that time. But if I put it on at a time that it was permitted for me to put on, then I'm allowed to continue wearing it. It doesn't say in the Shulchan Aruch you have to take off your clothing as soon as it reaches, let's say a Baal Bris. A Baal Bris is allowed to wear Shabbos clothing by the Bris Milah during the 9 days. Did we say as soon as the bris is over, that's it, he's got to change his clothing? Once he wore it in a permitted way, he's allowed to continue. So too here. And to Motzei Shabbos, to wear weekday clothing. So that's why our minhag it remains in Chabad to wear Shabbos clothing, and that is likewise the minhag of other select groups. The other groups, especially in Yeshuva Yashan Yerushalayim, that was the custom there. They would continue wearing the Shabbos clothing, the Shabbos trimal, into Motzei Shabbos, and they wouldn't switch the clothing. It once happened in 1989 that they announced in shul that there would be a break in 770 between Motzei Shabbos and Ma'ariv, where people can come home and change their Shabbos clothing. And the Rebbe turned to Rabbi Groner and he says, "What is this? What's going on?" And he said, "They're doing a break in order so people can go home and switch Shabbos clothing." The Rebbe was very upset. He said, "I've never heard of such a thing. Never heard of such a thing. To make a break and make people go home to get rid of their Shabbos clothing, to come back," he says, "this is a double tamua." The shoes, so you take off your shoes. How did people do it back then in the Ramah's time?
They didn't have Crocs.
What does the Ramah write in the Shulchan Aruch? He says, as soon as you say Baruch Hu, you take your shoes off. So right after Baruch Hu, everyone took off their shoes.
How do they go home?
People didn't always wear shoes. Yeah, honestly. People didn't always wear shoes. I guess there was less glass on the streets back then. I don't know. But people didn't always wear shoes. They had socks on. They walked with socks. So today, what would we do in such a case? In such a case, so you would bring your slippers to shul before Shabbos. Before Shabbos, you prepare your stuff. But they said that they did in order so people can change the whole wardrobe, and the Rebbe was very upset. And then Rabbi Groner said, defending himself, said, "But that's the Rabbanim. The Rabbanim said that this is okay. This is what we should do." And the Rebbe said to them, the Rabbanim were never in Russia, and they didn't know what the custom was in Russia by Russian jury. So this was never the custom. We never did such a thing. And the Rebbe defiantly did not change his clothing. He entered Kinnos and Ma'ariv with his clothing remaining, just his shoes he took off. That you have to take off.
You could bring a bag with your Crocs to Ma'ariv, right?
That's correct.
Because we have an Eruv.
Correct. Yes.
What do you mean?
You could bring
No, you can't prepare
No,
for
you
after
can't.
Shabbos.
Oh, you can.
So Erev Shabbos you can do.
Erev Shabbos you have to.
Oh, you have to leave it for.
Unless you want to walk around the shul with your Crocs already on Shabbos, it's just more comfortable. But that's, but you can't prepare. You can't bring it on Shabbos itself. But that was our custom. Our custom is always 3 minutes. I remember when I did a halach on this a few years ago. Also, a lot of people were upset. I don't know, they were so stuck on to wearing weekday clothing on Motzei. So I answered them to explain to them a little bit, just to ease them down. Of they were so surprised. How can you continue wearing Shabbos? So I asked them, this previous Shabbos, did you continue wearing Shabbos clothing by Ma'ariv, or did you go home and switch? I said, no, we didn't. First of all, there's no difference in halacha. There's no difference in halacha between this previous Shabbos and the coming Shabbos. The issur of wearing Shabbos clothing is not on Tisha B'Av. It's during the entire 9 days. So the same way you had absolutely no problem. You didn't send me any emails about the fact that you continue wearing Shabbos clothing this past Motzei Shabbos. So same thing here. It's the same thing. It's the same heter that we're following. So it's the opposite. Those who go ahead and specifically by Motzei Shabbos of Tisha B'Av change, we ask them, Manishtana. What happened that you suddenly now, that you're changing? No, it's not. Okay, you feel that it's not right to wear Shabbos clothing by Tisha B'Av, but Tisha B'Av is a mayit. It's a yontif. We don't say tachanon. So, yeah, sure. Even today, that it's still Tisha B'Av is a day of mourning, we still act on Tisha B'Av with some simcha, that it's a day of consider a mayit. We don't say tachanon, etc. Okay, Havdalah. So regarding Havdalah this week. So we have a technical issue.
Mhm.
We're fasting. We're not able to drink any liquid. So how can we drink the wine? Or how can we drink whatever it is that we're making Havdalah on Motzei Shabbos? And because of that, we actually do not make Havdalah this Motzei Shabbos over a beverage. We delay it until Sunday night. For all those who are fasting, you're making Havdalah Sunday night. That means that before you break your fast, you have to hear Havdalah. For this reason, and I should have mentioned this by the men's class, but I'll mention it now. Anyone who's not going to be in shul Sunday night for Ma'ariv and break fast, so they're going to have to hear Havdalah at home. If your husband is going to be hearing Havdalah in shul, he can't make Havdalah for you anymore. Havdalah is a special chumrah that a man cannot say for a woman if he was already Yaitzeh. Kiddush, since they're both equal in Kiddush, so he can even say Kiddush for a woman, even though he was already Yaitzeh. But Havdalah is different. A man cannot repeat Havdalah for the sake of a woman, even if it's his wife. And therefore, if he plans on being Yaitzeh Havdalah in shul, he cannot repeat it at home. So what really should be done is also no reason to delay eating until the husband comes home and does Havdalah. Do Havdalah yourself. You can do it on grape juice. You can do it on beer. You can do it on whatever is valid for a Havdalah beverage. And you do Havdalah on your own. How is Havdalah said? It's similar to Havdalah of Matzah Yantif. So you skip Ma'ir Ha'esh, you skip the Samim, you just say Hine Kel Yeshuasi, and then you go straight to Ba'ir Pri Agafen, and then you go straight to Hamavdil Ben Kedesh L'chol. So it's a regular Yantif Havdalah. The reason is because we can never say Ma'ir Ha'esh and B'samim the next day. It can only be said Motzei Shabbos. If a person forgot to do Havdalah and they're now making Havdalah the next day, they also would skip it. That's the reason why. Now, because of this, we go ahead and we do Ma'ir Ha'esh on Saturday night. Ma'ir Ha'esh, we don't want to miss.
Mm-hmm.
And that's technically not connected to the wine. So therefore, we already do that mitzvah on Motzei Shabbos.
Do we say the Havdalah with the Eish or just the bracha on the Eish?
You say you light a candle, a Havdalah candle, you say a single bracha, and that's it. Now, when is this done? So those of you who are going to shul on Saturday night for Ma'ariv and Kiddush, so it's done before Eicha. Okay? Meaning after Ma'ariv Shemoneh Esrei is complete, they then say Kaddish with the skabel, and that's when everyone is meant to do Ma'ariv Ha'esh. Now, being that in order for you to do it, you need to have a candle next to you. So it's a good idea to bring a Havdalah candle and matches with you to the women's section. So you'll be able to do it over there. Now, if you're not going to be going to shul, or you don't want to bring a Havdalah candle with you, and maybe nobody else will as well, then you can just do it before you leave. So Motzei Shabbos, you say Baruch Hashem Kedesh L'chol, you light the Havdalah candle, and you say the Bracha B'Marish. Now, some people say women are pater from Ma'ir Ha'esh. You may have heard of this. Even if that is correct, I mean, even if that position in the Poskim is true, there is such a discussion. It's true. There is such a discussion. But even if it's true, we hold that women are allowed to say brachas for matters that they are exempt for. So therefore, it's not a problem, and therefore, you're allowed to light the candle and say the Bracha Ma'ir Ha'esh. The only thing that women are not accustomed to do is to bring their fingers close. Okay, so you look at it. You're still Yaitzeh. The mitzvah is that you're benefiting from the light. So if you're in an area, okay, if you're next to the candle, you can benefit from it, you've done the mitzvah. The fingers is al pi Kabbalah. You know why women don't do it normally?
Because they didn't do the fact. Was it the fact?
Right, okay, but which aspect of it? What due to the chait? So the reason is like this. We were meant to look at the fingernails by Ma'ir Ha'esh. And if you remember, Adam Arishan, our great-great-grandfather Adam Arishan, used to have these beautiful nails covering his body. Remember?
Yeah.
He used to be covered by these beautiful nails, with the nail polish on. It was really nice.
So
And
weird.
as soon as he sinned and he had he was given to eat from the forbidden fruit, what happened to those nails? That's it. These little
All
guys.
left, yeah.
They became tiny little nails.
Only he had? She didn't have?
I don't remember if it's written regarding her.
Oh.
But the point is, let's remember, who fed him the fruit? Who gave him dinner? His wife. So it's not proper that comes Motzei Shabbos, look at the nails. A woman would come look at the nails when she caused Adam to lose the nails. That's the reason that's written down. That's why women don't do the nail aspect, but it has nothing to do with the mitzvah Ma'ir Ha'esh. Just because you don't do the Kabbalistic additional aspect of bringing the nails close doesn't mean that you're exempt from the whole mitzvah. So as I said before, you do the Mareh Ha'esh, you say the bracha, it's not a problem. However, the men are to do it in shul. They definitely should wait until after Eicha. That is the minhag. We do it in shul. Besamim, there is no besamim this year. We don't do besamim neither Saturday night because it's Tisha B'Av. It's not proper to smell the besamim and make yourself all happy when it's Tisha B'Av. And once it's been pushed off, we don't do it you can't do it on Sunday. I mean, you can smell besamim and say a bracha, but it's not done as part of Havdalah anymore. Okay, so that's why we said on Sunday night, we just do it like a regular Yom Tov Havdalah. Some are accustomed to skip Hine Kel Yeshuasi. The main nusach of Havdalah is the blessing of Hagafen and the blessing of Baruch HaMavdim Kodesh L'chol. We are accustomed to say first Hine Kel Yeshuasi, but that's not the main part of Havdalah. And that's why if you missed it, you're still Yaitse. If you came in middle and you heard everything else, you're still Yaitse Havdalah. So because of this, some people don't say those verses on Havdalah by Tisha B'Av or Matzei Tisha B'Av because they say it's too much simcha. This likewise was an attempted custom in that same year. They got into a lot of trouble that year with the Rebbe, 1989. The person making Havdalah he started skipping Hine Kel Yeshuasi, and the Rebbe told him, "What is this? What are you doing?" And they're going to go back and say the paragraph properly. But there's such a custom. Some people do skip Hine Kel Yeshuasi. It's not our minhag, but such a custom does exist. Again, anyone who enters a stage that they need to eat, they need to break their fast, they become slightly ill, as we mentioned, you first have to make Havdalah before you eat and drink on Tisha B'Av, okay? So whenever you're breaking your fast for whatever reason that you're allowed to, the first step is to make Havdalah on a cup of wine or grape juice or whatever it is that you can make it on, a cup of tea, lukewarm tea, and you say, again, as we said before, just Hine Kel Yeshuasi, Shakal Nidvar or Hagafen, and Hamavdim and Kodesh L'chol.
Children who eat. Children who eat need to hear.
Children who eat, right. So technically, children who have reached the age of chinuch have to hear Havdalah. The only thing is that they are not obligated to fast until Havdalah. Only adults, meaning people above bar bas mitzvah, are prohibited from eating and drinking before Havdalah. So technically, the children may continue eating and drinking on Tisha B'Av without doing Havdalah till, and then they'll be Yaitse with us at night. But the best thing is just to train them to do it. Just have one child make Havdalah for the whole family. He'll do grape juice or whatever it is, and then that's how he'll be Yaitse. If you have to make Havdalah, you can make them. What are you gonna give them? A cup of vodka, tea, right? You could. The best thing is grape juice. That's even the Ramal, when he discussed it, didn't write you should make it on Chamer Medina. He says make it on wine or grape juice. So that's the best thing is always wine or grape juice for any kaishal bracha. Havdalah, kiddush, using with other beverages only in a time of need is only when wine is not available. Okay, let's now we're going to skip now to Sunday night, and then we're going to go back to Tisha B'Av as would apply by any year. So Sunday night, we've said Havdalah. Who drinks the wine? Sunday night.
You find a stray child.
Fine, a stray child. So my wife and I, we have a rent-a-child business for this. We have a few children in that age. It's very cheap prices for those who get early. Just like this past Shabbos, it's written that you're supposed to give the wine or grape juice to a child that's above the age of chinuch of blessings, below the age of chinuch of mourning, above the age of chinuch of Havdalah, so it's a very refined age, to drink the wine. So too this coming Matzei Shabbos, some say as well, because as we're going to mention momentarily, there's certain restrictions that continue past Tisha B'Av, and this is one of them, not to drink wine.
Till when are we not allowed to drink?
So I'll discuss that in a moment, but let's just finish the Havdalah.
There's no child.
Oh, so what do you do if there's no child? So what do you do if there's no child? So then you drink it yourself. You drink it yourself. So if you don't have any child available, especially if there's no child in that age available, then you just drink it yourself.
It's already Tisha B'Av.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Matzei. I'm talking about Sunday night.
Sunday.
Oh, sorry.
This is all talking Sunday night. We do not make Havdalah unless we plan on eating. We do not make Havdalah on Tisha B'Av.
Except on a candle, no?
Just the
Yes,
bracha.
just the bracha of Meir Ha'esh on the candle, but Avdallah over wine, we don't say till Matzah Tisha B'Av unless you're breaking your fast, then you do, and then the same thing would apply. Who drinks the wine? So as I said, if you have the child available, give it to him, why not? Otherwise, you just drink it yourself, it's not a problem. So what morning customs continue? So in a normal year, we have a lot of the morning customs that continue to apply until midday the next day. For what reason? Because the temple continued burning on the 10th. This year, however, the 10th is Tisha B'Av. It's an oxymoron. The holiday named Tisha B'Av is on the 10th of Av this year. And so therefore, the next day is already the 11th. So what carries over? So the answer is that basically everything ends, except for two things that I'm going to mention, but everything else ends immediately as soon as Tisha B'Av is over. So as soon as Tisha B'Av is over, you can get a haircut, you can do laundry, you can put on a new clothing, you can take a bath, you can put on music, you can say Shechianu. All these things become permitted as soon as Tisha B'Av is over. This year, Sunday night. The two restrictions that continue to apply relate to the menu, and that is no wine drinking and no eating meat and poultry till the next morning. So till sunrise the next morning, we don't eat meat and we don't eat chicken. So you have to have a parv or milchik break fast meal after Tisha B'Av. Fish is permitted, just like during the 9 days is permitted, but meat and poultry is still restricted. Okay, we're going to go now to Tisha B'Av itself. On Tisha B'Av itself, there are a number of restrictions that apply. Most of them apply throughout the entire Tisha B'Av, while some only apply till midday. So we're first going to discuss which apply the entire 24 hours, and which cease to apply once midday arrives. So the following apply for all 24 hours. No eating and drinking. There's no heter after midday to eat and drink. No bathing. So the same way we don't wash our hands before midday, also after midday, that's for all 24 hours. No anointing. Anointing, what does anointing refer to? Anyone else?
Skin cream?
Skin cream is actually, that's medicinal. Medicinal skin cream. If your skin is, you have chapped lips or you have chapped skin and it's burning you, it's permitted. It's medicinal. It's not pleasure. Back in the day, we mentioned this a few times, there was a whole oil anointing pleasure. I don't know. People used to do this all the time. They would roll their bodies on oil. I don't know. It was a big thing back then. People would put oil on their body. So that's what you can't do. Today, with most anointing that we do is for medicinal purposes, so it's not really so applicable.
People use essential oils. That sounds like anointing.
Essential oils, yes, that would be a problem. That would be a problem to use if it's for the sake of pleasure. Leather shoes, throughout all 24 hours, you cannot wear leather shoes. Marital intimacy, throughout all 24 hours is forbidden. Torah learning is forbidden throughout all 24 hours, although there are certain things that we become lenient to permit after midday, and that is any set learning, like chitas, is permitted after midday. So that's just one exception. But in general, the restrictions of Torah learning.
What day are you talking about?
This is Matzah Shabbos Sunday, Tisha B'Av itself.
You can do chitas after midday?
After midday, we're more lenient, yes.
Only if you do it all the time. You're saying it's a regular
This is a set,
thing.
yes. Regular study sessions you can do. Not Rambam, though. Rambam, we do only Matzah. Greeting others. We don't greet others on Tisha B'Av, which means the following. First of all, it means, from the fact that we have to say we don't greet others on Tisha B'Av, that means you're supposed to greet others the rest of the year. So, right? And some people say, but I think the whole year we don't greet people. Right? It says in Pirkei Avos that a person should always be the first to greet another person. And even if you may say, well, you're going to start thinking, why do you say hello to me? I don't know him. What is he? You don't have to worry about those cheshbonis. You're just doing the Hayram, Pirkei Avos of Be'er Shammai, L'kabel, and Kol Adam B'Sever Panim Yafes. So on Tisha B'Av, where this is forbidden, which means is that you can't say good morning, you can't say hello, you can't say how are you. Any of these cordial greetings that we do, we cannot do on Tisha B'Av. This applies throughout all 24 hours. Especially, you have to be careful when you're answering the phone, when we're so accustomed to answer in these type of tones, so we have to avoid it on Tisha B'Av.
What are you selling on Tisha B'Av?
This is Lana. How may I help you?
Put on a recording.
Easy fast, how may I help you?
Can you say have an easy fast? Is that a greeting? Is that
No, that's not a greeting. That's a blessing. You can bless someone on Tisha B'Av. It's not a problem. You can say Mazel Tov also if someone, let's say, there's a Mazel Tov they need to get. So that you can do. The greetings is specific to Shalom Aleichem, good morning, how are you, things like that. Shavua Tov, good Fach. Yeah, we don't say.
Seems like you should be say good morning.
You can just say morning.
Because it's a morning, a day of mourning. So.
You know, I once in Crown Heights, I once said good morning to someone. He looks at me. Who said it's good?
on Tisha B'Av?
No, on a regular day. So just say morning. You be power. You don't want to be politically incorrect.
Don't be too friendly in New York.
No.
You'll decide if it's bad or good. Okay, but all these things are prohibited throughout the 24 hours. We don't do malacha. Now, the following apply till chatzos. Malacha is forbidden till chatzos. Malacha is defined as any matter which removes your mind from the morning, whether it be writing an essay or doing any work or job that removes your mind from being able to focus on the morning, is forbidden until chatzos. This applies, so meaning starting already for Saturday night. So even though it's a fast day and we have restrictions of learning, you may be tempted to do other things. I don't know, read a novel. I don't know, read.
Do homework. You can't do homework.
Anything that removes your mind from your mind is supposed to be focusing on the morning.
How about cleaning up your Shabbos dishes?
Right, till chatzos. No, we don't do till chatzos.
But even then,
Midday.
you're wetting your hands, aren't you? Not supposed to wet your
No,
hands.
but that's for a purpose of cleaning. But till chatzos, we don't do any house cleaning till chatzos. After chatzos, the custom is to allow malacha, so you can do house cleaning. Furthermore, some families, as the Birkei Yosef writes, are accustomed to tidy the house and mop it and sweep it and make it all beautiful for Mashiach to come after chatzos of Tisha B'Av. So they specifically do all these things. The next minhag that we keep till chatzos is not to sit on a regular chair or bench. That is kept till midday. Once it's after midday, you can sit on a regular chair. It's not a problem. Okay, so that's the list. We're now going to go into some details of these restrictions. Are you allowed to take medicine on a fast day? So anyone who's sick, as we already mentioned, doesn't need a fast, so obviously you can take medicine. So that's already clear. But someone who's not sick to that level, he has a slight headache. Can you take an Advil? So the answer is that it's permitted to take medicine on a fast day. The question just is, how are you going to take it? Because you can't drink water. So if you're able to do it with saliva, then fine. If you're not able to do it that way, then what you can do is you can crush the pill or open it up if it's a capsule that you can open and put it into the liquid, a little bit of water. Not drink a whole bottle of water with a little bit, right? Just a little bit of water. And it turns the water into a bitter taste, and it's considered that you're not drinking water.
Mm-hmm.
So you make a little disgusting shake out of it, and then you can drink it even on Tisha B'Av. Children below the age of bar and bas mitzvah are not required to fast on any of the rabbinical fasts at all, including Tisha B'Av, including if their bar mitzvah or bas mitzvah is the very next day. There's no obligation for a child to fast on a rabbinical fast day. Even on Tisha B'Av, the main approach is that they do not even have to fast for a few hours. Even Taina Shais, they don't have to do. Nonetheless, a child who desires to fast, you don't have to stop him from fasting. He's allowed to fast if he wants to, if he is able to, and be healthy, but they're not obligated to fast. Nonetheless, we do not give children sweets to eat on Tisha B'Av. We just give them plain foods due to the fast day. An interesting question that's recorded is, if a child is becoming bar mitzvah this year on Sunday, do they have to fast? You understand the back and forth of the question? Officially, the fast was when Saturday got pushed off. So when the official fast was applicable, they were still underage. So this is a very interesting legal question. The crime was committed when he was underage, but they're being prosecuted when they're overage. The fast only became an effect after they already reached it. So this is our machlekes actually if they have to fast or not. Bottom line is that they should fast in such a case.
Don't many children start fasting a year before the bar mitzvah?
As I said, what children decide to do is they're allowed to, but there's no obligation. There's no obligation, and it's forbidden for a parent to force his child to fast if he's below bar bas mitzvah. It's forbidden. What the parent can say is that, if you want to fast, you could. You have the whole day. If you feel hungry or thirsty, come to me and we'll give you to eat. But he's allowed to fast. He can't be told that he's not allowed to fast because he's close to bar mitzvah, because that's not true. He is allowed. He's not obligated to fast, even though he's close to bar mitzvah. Okay, smelling spices. Can you smell spices on Tisha B'Av, the summon? So this is a big machlekes. Some say it's mutter, some say it's forbidden. If we don't even allow you to do it for Besamim of Avdallah, remember we said before, only Mareh Eish we do. So certainly for regular pleasure, you can't do it. So this is a machlekes, and there's no real arbitration here. So some don't do it, and some do it. Some are lenient and do so.
What about the lady who brings all these fragrances to shul in the ladies section?
So that's the machlekes, yeah.
Right.
But if it's a fragrance, that doesn't receive a bracha of Besamim, so there's many fragrances that don't receive any bracha because they're artificial, they're chemically made.
Sure.
But essential oils, they may receive a bracha, and that's under the dispute. On Yom Kippur, for sure, it's mutter. The question is it mutter on Tisha B'Av, and that is under debate, under dispute if it's allowed. Well, there's no mourning on Yom Kippur. It's not a day of mourning. It's a day of oppression, not mourning.
You said on Yom Kippur, do not smell
No,
good?
I said Yom Kippur is not a problem.
Oh, okay.
It's not a problem. Anyone here have a leather couch?
Yes.
Are you allowed to sit in it on Yom Kippur or Tisha B'Av? After Chatzos. Or can you sleep on your leather couch?
I think you can, but you just don't know the reason.
Right. So the truth is that that is correct. It's mutter min adin. However, one who is stringent is blessed, and that's why we're stringent and we didn't buy a leather couch.
Just for that.
Well, many reasons, but I'm adding this one now as
So
well.
easy to clean.
This helps. This helps you be stringent on not enter into problems on Yom Kippur and Tisha B'Av. Regarding bathing and washing one's skin, so the halacha is that it's forbidden to bathe for pleasure purposes. Now, bathe, when we say the term bathe, it sounds like you're sitting in a Turkish bath. Bathing is defined even as taking a drop of water and putting it on my pinky to feel the water. Even that's considered bathing and is forbidden to be done. However, if it's not for pleasure purposes, but I got my fingers dirty, I touched food, I was feeding food dirty, anything, or went to the bathroom, got it dirty, anything that's to remove dirt is permitted to be done. It has to be real dirt, not psychological dirt.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a person went to the bathroom, he feels disgusting, he wants to take a shower. It's psychologically considered dirty. So it has to be physically dirty. Anything is physically dirty. After the bathroom, the halach is that unless a person actually literally dirtied his fingers in the process, you cannot wash your hands afterwards. What you do is you wipe your hands on an item, on clothing or a towel, or whatever you want to wipe it on, and you say Asher Yotzeh. You can't wash it. This is with exception to if you're before a davening. So before Ma'ariv, let's say, go to the bathroom Saturday night before Ma'ariv, so then since you have a davening in front of you, you can wash your hands up until your knuckles.
Only for davening you could do that?
Only for davening and only if you went to the bathroom.
Oh, you
Two
can do it
conditions.
before Asher Yatzar. You can
No.
wash to the knuckles. You can't.
No. Unless you dirtied your fingers. Unless a person dirtied his fingers in the process,
So you could still say the bracha without.
that's where you wipe it on something else.
Oh.
Yeah. You wipe it on a table, you wipe it on a towel, you wipe it on something else. Okay. Of course, it's forbidden to rinse the mouth on Tisha B'Av. If it's forbidden on every fast day, certainly Tisha B'Av is forbidden. We have a bathing prohibition, so no washing the mouth, no doing Listerine, no brushing teeth, unless it's causing one extreme discomfort. In the case of extreme discomfort, it's considered for refuah, and a person's allowed to wash his mouth. So it depends on the level that it's been reached. The anointing prohibition, Okay, so that refers to the following. We can't put cosmetics on the body, perfumes on the body. Okay, all these things are under the Isser of anointing. Regarding deodorant, since it's done to remove bad smell, it is permitted to be used on Tisha B'Av. Likewise, chapstick, as I said before, is permitted to be used on Tisha B'Av as it's done for medicinal purposes. Okay, there's more here. We're not gonna be able to finish everything. So the book is still for sale. Okay, you can get it. Well, I just want to conclude with the list of things you're allowed to learn on Tisha B'Av. That's not a problem. So we have the following list. We have the book of Eiv, Job, okay, with its Mefarshim. That's allowed to be learned on Tisha B'Av. It's kind of a sad book. A lot of sad things happen to Eiv. Different parts of Yirmiyah, of Sefer Yirmiyah, which deals with tragedies. Medrash Eicha, the Sefer Eicha has a whole medrash of it, so that you're allowed to learn. On that same way, you're allowed to learn Me'am Loez of Eicha, right? Torah Anthology, the translation of Medrash Eicha, so that can be learned as well. The Tractate Gittin. In Tractate Gittin, there's a whole section that deals with the story of the destruction. So that is allowed to be studied on Tisha B'Av. It's from page 50. It's actually in the book. I put that in the book with a translation. So let's see, it's over here.
But why are you allowed to learn Gittin?
This is the Gemara. Hold on. So you have it here with the translation. That you're allowed, because it's dealing with the Korban. These are a list of things that deal with the tragedies and the destruction, and thereby are not restricted to be learned on Tisha B'Av. The book Josephus is allowed to be studied on Tisha B'Av. If you plan on doing that, it'll take you probably the whole day. It's over 1,000-page book. So yeah, so that's and of course this book you're allowed to learn on Tisha B'Av. This whole book is permitted to be learned on Tisha B'Av. That's laws dealing with Avelus. But even so, it says you can only learn it b'shitchius, meaning like externally. You can't dig too deep into it and have pilpulim and get enjoyment from the Torah learning. So the whole purpose is just to, again, Musar and Chassidus Kabbalah, as we said before, is permitted to be learned on Tisha B'Av and is even encouraged to be done. Okay, I hope that these halachas will be in theory, not in practice. And we'll just practice the Simcha of Tisha B'Av this coming year.
Thank you very much.
So I want to buy a book.
Did you say that you're allowed to rinse your mouth in a normal fast day? That's not
No.
Tisha B'Av or Yom
Normal
Kippur?
fast day is Asr, and I said even more so on Tisha B'Av. It's
Oh, I
Asr.
think something about washing your mouth you could do on a fast
On
day.
a normal fast day, we don't rinse them out. However, if it's bothering you, then we're lenient. On Tisha B'Av, only if it's extremely uncomfortable. Oh wow, Shayna, do you have a 40 or 100? Do you have change?
What did you say the answer was? Very fast mitzvah on.
So machlekes, and bottom line is that they should fast. That's not.
We're teaching once. We're teaching once next year.
Meretz Hashem, God willing.
I'm going back to the state of Florida, so I wanted to give you.
My name?
Yeah. So I can
More
look it up.
importantly is my website.
Oh, okay, write it down for me, please. Thank you.
I think your husband came to my.
Yes, Daniel, yes.
I'm from Miami.
Are you from Miami?
Where do you guys live?
I love Miami Beach.
That's where I'm from. What street?
We live in Eastern Shores. We go to Eddie Rosenfeld,
Okay, yes.
Arado,
Yeah.
Eastern Shores.
Very nice. We lived on 12th Avenue,
Oh, okay.
12th and 172nd, next to the public school.
Okay.
So the marshals there.
Yes.
That's the her trees.
Yes, yes.
No, but she told me whatever he can do right now until they get
Yeah, the website and.
Yeah, this is the website.
So that
can
YouTube
sign up.
channel, how do you spell it? Hassan XZ, can you spell it?
100.
Wednesday night.
So I put
So that-
So that's a YouTube channel, okay.
Yeah, but if you look up my name, it'll also come up.
Okay.
If you look up my name, that's what comes up. And
YA?
YAAK.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
We have, if you go on the website, you'll see we have
Thank
the daily halacha. I gave you a book already?
No.
This is my book. This is the second book. Sign it.